My question is more on the human element of what's happening in Ukraine. In 2014, after Russia invaded Crimea, more than 1 million Ukrainians sought asylum in neighboring countries. Ukrainian diplomats in Europe are now saying that if Russia invades now, that there will be many, many millions more. What preparations are being made to work with the EU to alleviate this potential refugee crisis? Is the U.S. considering allowing Ukrainians to enter the country without a visa, or is it even just material support for potentially housing and feeding millions of Ukrainians who are going to be displaced?
Well, I would say, and you touched on this a little bit in your question, but since the conflict began almost 8 years ago, we have provided, there has been huge humanitarian challenges in Ukraine. Most of the needs are in the easternmost regions, of course, bordering Russia, including Donetsk and Luhansk, where fighting along active front lines have resulted in civilian deaths and injuries and damage to civilian infrastructure, including critical water supplies. That's already been happening over the past several years, and obviously COVID-19 has exacerbated that. USAID has a disaster expert in the country who's monitoring the situation closely, coordinating with other donors, assessing the evolving humanitarian needs of the Ukrainian people, and liaising with partners to determine what steps may be needed. Now, obviously, if Russia invades, that could create and exacerbate existing humanitarian needs stemming from these years of conflict. And we have, over the course of the last 8 years, provided more than $51 million to vulnerable communities across Ukraine, including nearly $141 million from USAID, food, safe drinking water, shelter, emergency health care, winterization services. And what USAID and our team on the ground will continue to do is assess what the needs are and make decisions accordingly. So I can't predict for you what that will look like. Obviously, our preference would be for a diplomatic path to avoid an invasion, but we have a long history of delivering urgent humanitarian assistance in Ukraine, and we're prepared to do that as needs warrant.
More